Thank you very much indeed for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity and thanks for having me.
Now, this plenipotentiary comes at a challenging time for the ICT industry. It's a time of great opportunity, but also a time when issues like financing of new network capacity, for example, is becoming critical. In a fast enabling environment, what do you think needs to be done to ensure that everyone gets the access they need?
The PP conference comes at a very interesting time, you're quite right, because it's the time at which the global concern now is on connectivity and bridging the digital divide between the North and the South, first of all, between urban and rural communities or rural populations, and within the various countries that form the membership of the ITU. The challenge is that, and that's why I think the ITU has come up with the vision of Connect 2020, with the hope that by the year 2020, we'll be able to connect significant population, parts of the world population, to the internet, because we live in a digital age and the world economy is slowly becoming an information economy, driven mainly by movement of information, movement of data, and internet connectivity is therefore critical. So I see the focus really in the next 4 years to be on simply one word, connectivity, ensuring that we connect populations wherever they are, regionally, continentally, and globally, to ensure that we expand the communication community the world over. And then it means government at regional levels or individual governments are going to be forced to have to invest lots of resources in ensuring that they connect the populations, because connectivity is going to be the most important aspect of the digital development, because if populations are not connected, then they are not included, as it were. And quite frankly, I think it's now going to be completely ironical to talk about development without talking about the internet as we move into the future. These are critical issues that we need to focus on, and that's why I tell people all the time, what are the priorities for government as we move forward? In my view, the priorities should be broadband, 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 because most of the services are going to be migrating to the digital platform. Most of our businesses are going to transact and operate on the digital platform. So the influence of the Internet of Things is going to pervade our lives as we move forward. So the $6 million question still remains, are we going to connect the world populations? And that's why I personally think the vision of Connect 2020 is great. And for all of us going forward from this plenipotentiary conference, the focus needs to be on connectivity and ensuring that we have enhanced connectivity enough to include significant parts of the world population.
So the key priorities for Kenya in the next 4 years to the next plenipotentiary?
I'll basically outline them in basically three words: infrastructure, connectivity, and content. Building the infrastructure that we need to be able to include huge swaths or parts of our population to ensure that Kenyans are connected to the internet. They can access and they can live on and transact on the information superhighway. Ensuring that that infrastructure is in place, and as a government we ourselves are doing so much in partnership with the private sector, because there is no government anywhere on earth that can do this on their own. We have built very strong partnerships and we are supporting the private sector to be able to help us build the ICT infrastructure, lay cables, and we have enacted policies that are supportive of private sector investment in the development of ICT infrastructure. We are ensuring connectivity happens. The reason why we are connecting various parts of our country is so that we can bring more and more parts of our population into the information superhighway, as it were. We are trying to find more power, because connectivity goes along with power. We must generate sufficient power, and our government aims to get about 5,000 megawatts into the national grid so that we can get our schools connected to power lines, our hospitals connected, and that's the only way we can enable them access broadband, as it were. Of course, we are going to explore other means and possibilities, for example, of wireless broadband availability in the rural parts of Kenya, which is critical. Then thirdly, the question of content. We are living and slowly moving into a knowledge-driven economy, which is going to depend heavily on big data and cloud computing. We must be able to generate sufficient content, whether it is content we generate as a result of how we manipulate and manage big data in the governance infrastructures that we have put up, or how we enable local populations or, in our country to develop their own content as we go forward. So as I said, our focus as Kenya is going to be and can be summarized in those three words: infrastructure, connectivity, and content. That is our focus, and we hope that by the time we get to another PP 4 years from now, we will have moved our mobile telephony penetration in the country to beyond 90%. We'll have moved our internet penetration in the country beyond 70%, and we will be able to ensure that broadband is available in more than 60% of the country. That way then, our people can participate effectively and meaningfully in the modern knowledge-driven economy.
You're certainly helping us to create some great content today. I wanted to ask you, do you think that ICTs are sufficiently recognized as key development catalysts? And should ICTs be part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals? And if so, why?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think when we came up with the MDGs and talked about the 2015 goal and the achievements or aspirations we had for 2015, I am amazed actually that we did not think about the place of ICTs, particularly the place of the internet in driving development, world development. Now we have an opportunity in the post-2015 era. It's completely inconceivable how we can talk about MDGs and achieving any form of development without paying attention to the role of the internet, as it were. Because whether you are talking about the growth in the, and development in the various economic sectors, whether it's agriculture, education, health, there is no way going into the future we are going to talk about development in these sectors without looking at the deployment of the internet. Because truth be told, the internet is becoming the next and the greatest 21st century equalizer. Access to the internet is becoming the source that will help us bridge the economic gaps that exist between populations. So we will avail information that will help us alleviate some of the health problems that we have. We will avail data that will help us take decisions that will change the structure and the circumstance of our health situation in our various parts of the country. The internet is going to drive the education sector broadly in various parts of the world, and it's going to help increase inclusivity and access to education across the world. Nothing is going to affect access to education more than the internet as we go into the future. So I look at the post-2015 era as the era of the internet. And whatever developments we are going to talk about, however we want to deploy resources, however we want to fashion our policies, our legislative frameworks, our interventions, we cannot do that in isolation of developments on the internet. So access is going to become critical. And again, that's why I said the word that is going to drive our development framework going into the future is one, connectivity. Are we going to connect world populations and therefore bring them into the global communication community so that they can then reap the fruits of the digital frameworks that are coming up? Are we going to help our populations participate and benefit from the Internet of Things? Because this is what's going to shape the world that we live in and the world that we are going to live in. So I think it's unfortunate that we did not pay as much attention in the past. It is unfortunate that in our budgetary allocations in the past, we did not make sufficient allocations and we did not pay sufficient attention to development of the ICTs. But we have no choice now. We have no choice, absolutely no choice. If we are thinking of growth, if we are thinking of inclusivity, if we are thinking of bridging the economic gap, if we are thinking of addressing the economic divides, the internet is an indefensible part of that planning. So going into the future, we have no option but to ensure that we mainstream the ICTs as a critical part of our development. And therefore, I think the UN has to pay not just ordinary attention, but very special attention in terms of the resources, the infrastructure that we build, the institutional framework that supports the deployment of ICTs, and how else we engage with the availability or access to internet as we move forward. Thank you.
Dr. Matiang'I, thank you very much for sharing these vital and inspiring insights with us today.